ORC Labs can be used by instructors and course developers to easily create reusable environments that are cost-effective, whether you have 1 student or 100 students in your class. Let's take a look at how this works. The first step is to create the reusable template for your lab environment. This defines things like the machine size and operating system. It's also where we will install and configure our software necessary for the training course. This steps us through everything necessary, starting with the name and description. I can start with a base image or copy an existing template. We'll go ahead and start with a base image. I want this to be a Windows machine, so I'll select that here, and then I'll select the appropriate machine size. That's all that's necessary to create the characteristics for the hands-on learning environment. Now that we have the lab template defined, I can start the lab template here. Once it starts, I can access the machine through the browser and do any additional setup. As an instructor, I am able to do all of this without requiring any additional resources from my IT department. Once I am done with any necessary installations, this template is available to use for future classes. We can see that there's already a few classes out there, but let's go ahead and create a new one. I'll simply give this class a name, and I can provide a description as well. I will add myself as the instructor, and each class can have a start date and an end date. We can also define the class hours. This will be a virtual class, but the steps we are going through to create the class will be similar for a virtual class as well as a class that is to be taught on site. If this is a virtual class, we can enter the online meeting information here so that it is easily accessible by students. Once we have the basic logistics for the class defined, I can now define the environment that will be used for the hands-on labs. To define the environment, I simply point to a previously defined lab template similar to what we created earlier. Remember, that's what defines the environment configuration that's going to be used for the class. These are reusable, so as an instructor, the environment creation only has to be done once, and then I can reuse that configuration for each class. Depending on the type of class to be taught, there are different types of environments. I want everyone to have their own machine, and they'll also be the same for both the instructor and student, so we'll choose instructor and student. We do need to enroll students in the class. In the interest of time, I'll just go ahead and add 1 student. Once the students are added to the class, each student will automatically get an email that they can use to access the class. If there's additional notifications that we want to send, those can be configured here. Now that the class is out there, I'll go ahead and start the class and then start the labs as well. This will spin up a lab environment for the instructor and each of the students.
Now that the machines are running, if I go up to the top, you'll see I have also a tab called My Labs. And as the instructor, this is where I'll find the machine that was created for me. So we can full screen this, and now within this browser, I am interacting with this machine just as if everything was installed locally. Once those students are accessing those machines, I'll be able to see what they are doing. I'll be able to provide any assistance that they may need. Now, of course, this class we've only assigned 1 student, but in the event that I had several students, I would also be able to see each of their machines. This is an example of a class with several students. So you'll notice I have access to view each of their machines here. I can scroll through. This gives me an idea of who's working on exercises, who's not working on exercises. I can probably see who is stuck and might need some additional assistance.
Anyone who's taught a virtual class knows that it can be a bit like teaching in the dark. With ORC Labs, I have visibility into each of the student machines, and I can even take control of the machine if necessary. Just to recap, we covered how ORC Labs is designed for the instructor to be able to create the reusable lab environment templates and use those templates when scheduling each class. We also got a glimpse into how ORC Labs gives instructors visibility into the student machines to facilitate virtual training.